Hey guys, what's up? I'm recording a video review of Owen Davies' book on Grimoires. And first I want to note that I am in fact man enough for all this fucking tea. Okay, so to the notes, which I have prepared. Grimoire. The word itself evokes images of leather-bound books with Gothic black-letter print, obscure diagrams and pictures, drawn perhaps in blood, and the names of various demonic entities such as Satan, Lucifer, Abaddon, and Asmodeus. That's a popular perception of them drawn from pulp fiction, film, and role-playing games. Most people are only familiar in passing with one fabled grimoire, called the Necronomicon, which it is said is bound not in leather but in human flesh. It was actually, of course, invented by weird fiction author H.P. Lovecraft. It's appeared in various guises. Anyway, what are grimoires? Without the internet, when I didn't have the internet, I spent a lot of time reading, and one of the books that I read was Grimoires, a history of magic books. The British historian Owen Davies has written a handful of other texts, none of which I've read so far, but all of which seem interesting. One about the social history of ghosts, one about the history of British witchcraft, quote-unquote Wicca, one about cunning folk, people who practiced healing magic and used herbs, and finally this book about grimoires. And before I read the book, I imagined it might go into detail about specifically medieval grimoires, is exploring them and their impact. It does, it definitely does, but the book scope actually surpasses that. It is truly what it says, a book, not on the history of magic, but on the history of books about magic. The world of magic books has its own founding fathers, according to Davies. In fact, magic was, to the classical world, viewed as the invention of Zoroaster in Persia and the various sects of Egypt. However, they were not strictly the ones who became the originators of grimoires. By the time books of magic, as opposed to scrolls with incantations, appeared, the occult founding fathers were not quite who one would expect. While certainly Platonic mystics and the occultism of Pythagoras loomed large in the Western world, it was in fact the men of sacred scripture who were ascribed magical powers. Enoch, the man who walked with God, according to Genesis, was one. Moses, who was learned in the arts of the Egyptians, according to the book of Acts, was another. Noah and his sons were others, and no one was a magician par excellence like Solomon. Moses and Solomon were the two who really took off. Moses was, of course, the one who learned all of the occult mysteries of Egypt, and with God's power triumphed over them. He also spoke with God, and within Jewish tradition there is the idea that, in addition to the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Scriptures, God also taught Moses the oral law, which, according to mystically minded rabbis, comprises the sum of the Talmud and the Jewish mystical art known as the Kabbalah and much, much more. He was hailed as a mystic by like-minded rabbis and learned Jews, but while Moses certainly had his adherents, it was in the Gentile world that Solomon was the sorcerer supreme. The tradition of magical powers ascribed to Solomon began a couple centuries before Christ, and are recorded in Josephus and continued from there. All manner of esoteric and occult legends surround the man, from his powerful magic ring and enslavement of the demon Asmodeus, to various grimoires, to his various alleged consorting with Lilith. Solomon makes Doctor Strange look like a guy pulling ribbons out of a hat, honestly. Even the Freemasons trace their history back to his building of the temple. Hermes Trismegistus is another, said to be Hermes and Thoth, or alternately composed of Enoch, a teacher of Pythagoras, and an Egyptian contemporary of Moses. Another one was known as Tos the Greek, which may be an alternative name for Thoth, aka Hermes Trismegistus. From these figures and others later on, such as the infamous Faust, magic books appeared in great numbers, and with them the Inquisition and civil authorities appeared to destroy them. And during the Crusades, of course, they offered learning. The Christian world came in contact with Islamic scholars, and magical ideas from the Orient filtered in as well. Grimoires were originally a mild menace. Like any other books, they were transcribed by monks and used primarily by them and by literate nobles, either out of genuine occult interest or mere curiosity. The printing press changed all that, and like scripture and pornography, which, as you know if you read crack, pornography has changed the world in so many ways, and it's pretty much the impetus for pretty much any popular technology today, from the internet to the printing press to who knows what else. Black magic went from being something only the wealthy or monks could enjoy to something that any literate person could pursue, and in many cases word of mouth alone was sufficient. Davies records instances in, for example, the Southern Americas and Caribbean, where certain rituals were practiced that were derived from grimoires, but whose practitioners were illiterate and did not possess the books themselves. Paris was an occult supercenter, as was Toledo, Spain. Paris especially became an occult supercenter around the time of the printing press, and shortly thereafter. Paris churned out a ton of cheap paperback magical books, and there are quite a number of them out there. The North American colonies, of course, also had these magic books, and the Palo Mages and their books of Moses and their Himmelsbriefen come under Davies' eye, as does the founder of Mormonism, Joseph Smith Jr., who, before founding his cult, was a dowser for hire and used occultism to allegedly acquire the golden plates. Let's see. Throughout the text, we meet all manner of soothsayers, clairvoyants, mages, and, of course, outright frauds and crazies. My favorite would actually have to be a Chicago writer named Felix Markowitz, who composed a quote-unquote grimoire that was filled with obvious advice and sheer trickery rather than magic. For example, rather than performing a ritual or creating a talisman, the author recommends that to ensure your neighbor's cow runs dry on milk, sneak over to his place before dawn and milk the cow yourself, then steal the milk. A similar esoteric recommendation involves making your own cow give more milk by improving her diet. It's a really excellent book, full of information. It's a bit dryly academic, but if you're interested in the subject, you'll definitely enjoy it. I would not say it's a book to read if you're looking to develop a more personal relationship with Satan. I would recommend The Process Church and the Final Judgment for that, or, Paradise Lost. But if you want a genuinely interesting and readable history of these books, it'd be hard to top Davies. You'll never look at poultry farmers the same way again. Good night, guys.